I want to jump into the next section of questions around bias and misconceptions and how to decrease that when it comes to veteran recruiting. Specifically, you know, that can happen in terms of physical health, mental health. There's a variety of things here that can be at play, and it is important to address it and understand that. And I think, Julie, this kind of leads right into your wheelhouse. I'm going to let you kind of respond here on how employers can work to decrease those things.
Yeah, so I think it's first important to understand that there are roughly 5 million veterans today who have a VA rating of somewhere of disabled. And that doesn't mean that those are the only members of the military, the only veterans that do have disabilities. It's only the ones that have gotten that VA rating. And even those that have a VA rating, that doesn't mean that they necessarily consider themselves to have a disability. And so what we see a lot in terms of bias and misconception is it's twofold. The first is the assumption that every veteran that you're engaging with, whether you know they have a disability or not, has post-traumatic stress, or that they have some sort of mental health issue that is going to impact the way that you feel about hiring them, whether that's that it might be scary or they might not be manageable. We have to admit that those biases exist and then start to tackle them in a meaningful way. And we also can't assume if a veteran has a physical disability that he has a mental health disability. So what we talk about is, one, better understanding how to create a culture where a veteran can talk to you about what their needs are to be the most productive and the most successful in their career with your organization. And that's a very individual conversation. We have to acknowledge the biases and make sure that we're saying, okay, I don't know this veteran. I can see he has a physical disability. How do I manage that? And is there a mental health disability? You need to create a culture of openness and a culture of management in terms of leadership about communication to veterans, to make sure that at the highest level, at the corporate level, and also at the direct report level, that veterans can have those conversations when they need to. And there are also a lot of really fantastic universal design processes that you can set up in interview processes, or in the interview, in talent acquisition, in meetings, that are gonna make veterans, specifically those that may have mental health opportunities, to feel more, to not increase that anxiety or that mental health issue at the time. And those actually end up being good for all people with mental health disabilities, but generally in terms of also creating a great environment for your candidate experience and for how you manage your teams. And so if we think about what the opportunities are to decrease bias, it's also around communication. We need to make sure that as leaders in companies that we see veterans, not just on Veterans Day, just not on Memorial Day, that we're having everyday conversations about how they bring value to the workplace, and not just thanking them for their service once a year, because all veterans are used to that. I hear that every time from my husband. Yeah, thank me on Memorial Day, but like, I can't talk about who I am at work. I can't talk about any of the struggles or the whole person that I'm bringing as moving into this new life with anyone, because you just care about waving the flag and not really about who I am as a person. So that was a little bit of a soapbox, I apologize. But I think it's really important that we're bringing veterans into the conversation about diversity, inclusion, about disability, about what they bring to the team all of the time, and not just once or twice a year. Jasen?
Yeah, thank you for handling it that way. It's a sensitive topic. I think some might look at 2 and 2 together equals 22 and not 4. And so I certainly appreciate your perspective. I know as a general rule of thumb, it's good for all of us, right, to be aware of the sensitivities that are inherent with the colleagues that we work with, military and non-military. I myself had a training accident which affected the vision in my left eye and bummed up a knee. But you know, to be honest with you, I appreciate that it's more welcoming now in the military to use the professionals in our lives to, you know, to move things forward in a productive way. I'm just speaking for myself. I've operated in a high performance environment for a couple of decades now, and with many people of all different walks of life, and some combat veterans, some non-combat veterans, and civilians. And I still see them bring it to the workplace every day. So I greatly appreciate those that have taken detriments or remnants, issues of a more serious nature, and still being able to help move their companies forward.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I think back to, having that transparency, communication, having that open line between managers and corporate and employees is really important here. And I think we're growing as an industry, making strides, hopefully, in that direction, not just with veterans, but with all people.